a way to do that when they're overpriced. So, Jeff, I've already told my client, I looked up to see who has it listed. And when I saw Jeff Stewart, I told my client, this guy is a rock star agent. So if it's priced like that, there's probably a reason. That's what I told my client. So I'm sure you have comps. What did you pull? Like, what is it making it higher? I'm going to come at it. I'm going to compliment the fire out of you when I tell you that I think you overpriced it.
Hold on. Let's pause. All right. So what do we hear there? So this is important. This is something that I've used.
Same side of the table.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So what he said was, you crazy. This house is too expensive. But how did he say that?
After I told you how amazing you are.
So this is super important. So putting together your comps and mailing it with, like emailing it with your offer is doing the same thing, but you're never going to win. But what Chuck's doing is saying, look, I've run up and down through the comps on this. I've seen the data, and you're quite a bit above that. So what are you seeing that I'm not seeing, or what stood out to you to get you to this price point?
Yeah. But it's always complimenting the person too. Like I told them how good you are. And if it's priced that high, there's a reason.
There's a reason. What you got?
Yep.
And you can tell, boy, that I tell you what, most agents will do this. They will fold. They'll say, yeah, I told them it shouldn't be priced there either. They just wanted to price it there.
Okay. Yep.
They'll just straight up say that.
I got that email. The guy said, this is the seller's pricing, period. Like literally, that's just what he said, Bob. And I was like, all right. Come back there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Because how do you feel if someone does that? If you do that to me, I'm like, first off, I'm like, dude, I love this dude, Jeff, that's complimenting me. And second, well, I want to let him know that I'm not crazy. This was my seller's fault, right? Or I have comps and I'm going to supply them to you.
So let's work that script from the seller side. So on the seller side, you get an offer. How would you communicate that you're much higher than the buyers and you need them to get up?
You asking me?
Anybody. Like, how do you have the same conversation? So we're talking about a buyer coming in saying, gosh, you're priced way above. So there are a couple of ways you can go, and just this is meant to be masterminding and brainstorming, but I would say, I love where you guys came in. We're obviously quite a bit apart, right? So what had you at those numbers? What had you so far? Was a big discrepancy from where we're priced at and where you're at. Can you help me understand where you're putting together your offer from? You'll get the same thing from the buyer's agent. Oh, I don't know. They just wanted to throw something out there. They said that they'll count, that if you'll counter, they'll come back though. Now I know, like, you're just throwing softballs, whatever.
But again, what you just did, this is the key to all this. You stayed on the same side of the table.
Yep.
And it's the most important thing, because you'll get people that come back and say, they're kind of rude about it. When you make an offer that you have to make the offer ultimately that your client says. And sometimes you don't agree with it. And they'll come back very upset with you. Does that help anything? But what you just did, it helps. It's that communication and treating them with respect.
All right. So I know this is about, we're just on a roll here. So I'm going to ask who somebody that works with a bunch of buyers, if you've got somebody that wants to offer significantly lower on a property, not based off of comps, they're just throwing low offers out there. What's that conversation look like for you guys? And what we're talking about, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because winning offers is about client management, understanding what your client's needs are. And when I say management, I don't mean manipulating, but I mean understanding what their needs are and managing the situation. So how would you have that conversation with a buyer that wanted to come in low?
Present data first and foremost. So on the comp list that you run, you're going to get list and sell price. You can run those list to sell ratios. You can show them the absorption report. If it's 98% list to sell ratio in that price range, I like to tell them, hey, I can negotiate well, but I'm not a magician. I cannot get somebody to accept this price. We'll put it out there. Be very prepared for a counter, or be prepared to lose the property. How would that make you feel, by the way? But really trying to present that data and do your homework and run through the scripts on your end before you even put that offer out there. That way you'll get the buyer to the highest possible price they can for that initial offer, because that initial offer sets the tone for negotiation.
It does.
And then the next thing, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry. Then right from that conversation that Collin was saying, I'd roll into, my job is to help you get the best deal, the best house at the best price. And explain there's two ways to win. You can get a great house at a steal. That's a win. That's a win-win. And the other way to win is you get the house you want as well. Now, if they're coming in real low, I would remind them, hey, I want to save you money. And I also want to keep this deal going forward. So, we want to make a lower offer to save you money. And yet we don't want to go so low that we've offended the seller, because they have three options. They can accept the offer, they can counter the offer, they can simply reject it. And frankly, getting a rejected offer is much harder to come back and overcome than a simple counter. So let's revisit that number and make sure that we're hoping that they're going to counter, that it's something that they want to play ball with.
That's awesome. So
I was wondering, how does the offer conversation change if you're selling something that isn't residential? So for example, vacant land or a one-off farm type property or watershed cove, something like that.
which aspect of that? What do you mean?
So with comps, I think with residential, it's my understanding it's easier. However, with vacant land, like larger tracts of vacant land out in the countryside, or a farm with a certain kind of history, it seems like it would be more difficult to comp, right? So if you're having the conversation about offer price, due diligence, interest money, sitting down on the same side with the listing agent, is there a different way to handle that conversation?
Go ahead, Collin.
There's more speculative aspects, especially in the land market. If it's really special, one of a kind, on the seller side, it's, I've got one of one here. So, obviously I encourage something on paper. You always want to try and get that offer first and foremost, and then try and learn as much motivation you can on the buyer of why it's special to them. And then you can use it to your advantage in negotiations. There's a speculative aspect to land. There's a speculative aspect to luxury houses, and what's someone willing to pay for this thing, just because they're very difficult to comp. You base it in price per acre, whatever metric you're using, but at the same time, it's just more of a dance and a collaborative conversation to arrive to that price. So don't price it in the clouds from the get-go. Price it, based in data, but you can certainly put a premium on it if it's that special of a property. And from the buy side, coaching your clients on it. Like, this is only one of these types of properties that's sold in the past few years. That's how rare this thing is. What's it worth to you, kind of thing. And essentially there's maybe 2, 3, 4 rounds of negotiations to get to a agreement on a property like that, from my experience.
Right. And what's your use? If somebody's got 1,000 llamas, maybe they need somewhere to put the llamas. Like, you got to understand, it has less to do with what historically we've seen for other parcels and what that person might need at that time. Or maybe they need, they want to do VRBOs and it's out of zoning and has all that stuff available. So another script that I've used for buyers is what's more important, the discount that you would get from offer price or the price versus the value of the home? And if you ask that question, people stutter all over the place. So like, is it more important that you get something that you're paying a good price for, right, relative to the market? Or is it more important that you got a discount off of the list price? And then you'll start to find out what's important to the buyer. Because, we've all gotten crazy offers where people throw something out and you're like, that actually doesn't make any sense at all. Well, because it was priced at 300, he thought he'd go, 220. Okay. What's more important? Discount off list price or value? So don't be afraid to ask those questions. Be very pointed with your clients. They're going to dance around stuff and try and be crafty until you just nail them with direct questions, and then they just and then your relationship gets so easy and clean and clear. Sam, what
I would assume that you. Oh, the Sam.
No, go ahead. No.
Okay. I would assume that they know something. I give my buyers credit for knowledge, not only because we start our relationship with knowledge and market statistics, but they're actually looking at their portal, they're looking at the market. So when they're on the fence and they're not sure if they even want to make that offer in a multiple scenario, and you're in that house with them and you know that this is something either rare or special, just, you know, I ask them, what do y'all think? You know, I say, you've been watching the market just as closely as I have the last 6 weeks. What do you think the chances are that something like this is going to show up again around your price point, or even $20,000 over your budget?
That's so good. Katie P uses a script. She says, you're an expert in this micro market. What do you see? The same question you just asked, but she uses the terminology, you're an expert in this micro market, because you only look at one segment of the market all day, every day, because this is your baby. So everything that comes in that pond, you're looking at. So tell me, what do you think? And now you're shoulder to shoulder with them. Now you're working toward where you need to be. That's awesome. I love that.
What's worked good for me is, over the years, is the leading part. I like to tell them, I'm going to determine a value, a range, and then you tell me what you want to pay. Then I'm going to tell you what I don't. My clients, they don't tell me what to offer, because it's not because I say you can't do that. It's because I led them down a path where they tell me what they want to pay, and I tell them what we need to offer to get to that. And if it's a low number, then I'll say, well, we talked about, it looks like it's around 200. Would you agree with that? Yes. Okay. Then why do you feel like you want to pay 190? Do you just want to get a deal? It's exactly what you said. Do you just want to get a deal, or do you want to get some off asking price? Because sometimes they're underpriced. But the leading part, then you take back control of it. Versus I've just found that, especially some of them like the higher Ds, they just may go crazy and want to offer 160 on a 240 house.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. Anything else? No. Any other tips or tricks? Or
it all comes back to asking questions and getting back to motivation. And so if you really know the client's motivation, you can get them to where they need to be. And another observation, some of the best deals clients have gotten came from initially submitting higher offers. So if you start at 160 on the 240 price, how do you think the sellers are going to react to that? Are you going to get a brick wall? Or if you start at 215, are you going to get more movement than you would have had with that initial very low offer? So if it's one buyer with one seller, you have more negotiation leverage as a buyer. Start with the reasonable offer, something reasonable, at least grounded in comps. If you start with something ridiculous, you're more inclined to really upset the seller and get a much worse counter than you would have gotten otherwise.
Yep.
I want to throw in one thing about when you see highest and best by Thursday at 5 p.m., in case no one's experienced this. As the buyer's agent, you do not have until Thursday at 5 p.m. to get your offer in. You cannot assume that. The sellers can take any offer anytime they want.
Yep.
So don't ever let your guard down and relax when you think, oh, we've got 2 or 3 days to get an offer in. Don't rush it. Like Jeff said, do a good job. Make sure your contracts are right, but you can't sit on that. You need to get your offer in.
No.
Communicate with the other agent too. When it comes to multiple offers, you win them for your clients. Remember this, your work wins offers for your clients. You can't just passively send something and say, hey, we can't wait to hear from you. You have to ask that agent questions, check in with them, be on top of it, make it known that I'm going to close this thing for you. You choose to work with me.
Let's pause that. Hold on. I want to pause that. So that's another good point. So we're talking about, what Collin's talking about is value proposition. So your job as a real estate agent is doing fiduciary activities, right? Yes. So that's what you do. There's a whole hell of a lot of y'all all over Asheville, and there are easily 100 that I would rather work with. And what Collin's talking about is, you will widen the gap between you and your competition the more you lean into understanding, I win this for my client. This is on me. It may come down to scripts. Am I talking to my buyers in the right way? It may come down to offer being clean, attachments being connected appropriately. All these things play, asking questions, which Collin was mentioned. So I think it's really important. There's no silver bullet. Your value proposition is going to dictate every step along your success as a real estate agent. If you over deliver every single time, your business will grow, and no one can argue that. Zach, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I put it in the chat just because I know we're running low on time here. But so, given that there are multiple offers a lot, how do you set yourself for the win as the backup offer? Why would you advise to put someone in that position? What does that look like?
Okay. Anybody want to role play this with me? Don't make me do
Sure.
it myself. It's just weird. Okay. Sam, should I? I got two Sams, both saying sure. I'm going to go Sorrento this time. All right. Sorrento, do you think we should put in a backup?
I absolutely think that if you feel this is the right house, we should certainly put in a backup. The reason why I say that is, it's real estate and things happen every day, and we don't know, what can happen for the current buyer. And to put you in a position to win this home, I certainly feel that we should explore that option, putting that backup in.
That's
How do
awesome.
you feel about that?
I don't want to put the backup in if we're never going to get it. I mean, what do you think? Are they going to back out?
Well, it's not guaranteed. However, as my job is to make sure to stay in communication with them and follow through their due diligence period. Make sure to stay in contact with the agent to find out how that's going, how the inspections are moving forward, how the appraisal is looking. So I wouldn't say that it wouldn't be a guarantee. I think that we should definitely explore the option and see how that due diligence period lasts for them. And we can still keep our options open and look during that time period as well.
Good. So backup offers are awesome. So here, I got a script for you on backup offers. So somebody asked me if they should put a backup in. Whoever.
Should I put a backup offer in?
Amy, I'm glad you asked that. This multiple offer situation, it's been a little stressful. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know who's going to offer what. It's like that competition part starts to play into it. You feel like you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've found just historically is I've been through lots of offers, deals, breakups, all this stuff, is people get wrapped up in the situation. And sometimes they overcommit. And I don't know that agent wasn't going to them and saying, hey, would it be worth your time to tie this up while you look at another house? So I'd be doing you a disservice if I suggested that you didn't put in a backup, because for all I know, the emotions carried this person into offering a little more than they're comfortable with for their family. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Write the backup.
Let's say that they've bitten off too more than they can chew.
They may have. I didn't say they had. I said, I've seen that happen. Right? But what I'm going to do is, there's a reason you made an offer on this house, Amy. You offered on this house because it was the best fit for your family at this price point. And that's not going to change tomorrow or the next day unless something else comes on the market. Having a backup offer in place allows us to pursue other properties if something better comes on the market in this time period. But based on what we've seen so far, I would guess that that's highly unlikely. So why don't we put this offer in, secure your backup position, see what these primary people do, and then you and I are going to go to work trying to find another property in the meantime.
Is there any risk to putting in a backup offer?
I want to point out one thing. You got to put up your earnest money. So you got to have enough earnest money for the next offer, because your earnest money will be tied up with the backup offer. So if they've only got enough cash for one earnest money deposit, then that needs to be considered.
That's right. And that's part of talking them through like what expectations would be to make another offer or something like that.
But you can put it as a secondary earnest money, do it primary.
I don't even know what that meant, but
do what?
Okay, so you put 0 as your initial earnest money, and then you put on the secondary earnest money, you put what it would be, and then when it's due, you say at primary contract status.
Right.
That's perfect.
Yeah, you can negotiate that, right?
Boom. Anything?
I've done that too on backups. I've always gone in 0 upfront earnest money deposit. And I put in the dollar amount for the additional earnest money deposit. And I write in the line, as far as being due within 5 days of becoming primary contract.
That's awesome.
And that's always worked.
That's a great way to protect yourself. All right. So we got a few minutes. Is there anything that we didn't address as far as when you're going into a multiple offer situation and tips and tricks to help you get there?
I have one that we copied.
What's
we
that?
copied from Matt and Molly team.
Yeah.
They do a very good job writing a letter to the agent, and it's got some very specific, very well written language in it. These buyers listen to us very well. They're very qualified buyers with our most trusted lender. There's very powerful language in their letter that they write to the agent in the email. So that's worth looking at too, that we use something similar to that.
That's right. And that starts with your conversation with the opposing agent, right? Cool.
Yes.
Collin, you got any closing remarks?
Be aggressive about these offers. You win them for your clients. It's like a basketball in the air. Only one person can get the rebound. You want it to be you. So you got to do more work, jump higher, explain your offer more, put the best terms on paper. It's a all the above type scenario that's going to allow you to win more. And really try and make friends and allies with as many agents as you can in the marketplace. The 80-20 rule, it's acceptable across many different realms, but especially with agents. You're going to run into 20% of the agents in the deals that you do, despite being a much larger agent pool in the market. You're going to see all these same people in regularly, and you want as many allies out there as possible. So it's that's definitely a very valuable tool to do more deals in general.
That's awesome. Sorrento?
All that Collin said, just communication is really key between your clients, your lenders, the other agents. That just goes so much farther in just knowing what they have, the products available that they're using, timeframes necessary, and just communicating that with all parties.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Chuck?
Same, what all we talked about, just what they just said, and just being that agent the other agents want to work with. They unintentionally or intentionally, you will sometimes direct your clients based off, this is a really good agent, these two are very similar offers, I have worked with this person, they're great. Or lender, they do it with lenders too.
Yeah, I would agree. So a lot of what we're talking about today, so there's the structural part of the offers, but I think we've determined that the structural part is probably the smallest part, right? So these are the soft skills of real estate. So I would encourage you to have these conversations and prep yourself for how this situation is going to go before it becomes game time, right? So the NFL doesn't practice on Sunday. So don't use your clients as a cadaver. I want you to literally practice these conversations. So regionally, we just opened up script practice from at 8:30 on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's in your weekly email. Those are coming from regional now. We're having a guest script person come every morning at 8:30 to do that. Get on there and just listen. What is the language? I'm sure you heard some of these people pick language that was a little bit unique, right? You're like, why'd they say that? Why was the cadence this? The tonality, upswing, downswing. Those are the soft skills that'll get you deals. And we can learn those through mistakes, which cost you money and cost your clients their house, or we can practice those things. So find a buddy. It doesn't have to be on a script call, but I would encourage you to do that. And then go through these scenarios with. Good to see all you faces. Look at all these faces and names. This is so good. This almost feels like the old days. All right, I appreciate everybody. I wasn't aware I was supposed to record it till the end. I recorded some of it. Sorry, not sorry. Let's do it again. You guys tell me what topics you want for the next class, and we'll do some more. This is really interesting. It's like talking into a vacuum. Goodbye.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, wait. Zach's want to say something. What you got, Zach?
Thank you, panel.
You know, if you just think of supply and demand, right? Supply is very low. So back to the thing about it appraising and everything, that leads you to believe prices have to go up somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Just because. I mean, oh, well, you know, it didn't appraise. It's like, okay, well, it's that or the other house that isn't on the market. What do you want to do here? So
That's right.
You know? So, and when you're listing it as well, same deal. It's like, oh, well, it might not appraise. It's like, well, where else are they going to go? So interesting times. Love to talk about that from some of the seasoned vets.
That's right. Cool. Good job, y'all. I appreciate everybody's participation. And let me know what topic you want next. We'll do another one.
See everybody.